Scientists at Stanford Medicine and around the world have demonstrated the tremendous potential of AI and machine learning in medical research, care, and education. Now we're able to apply AI in ways that we couldn't have even dreamed about 5 years ago. The more traditional forms of AI that usually are described with machine learning or deep neural networks, and now more recently, there have been the large language models or transformer models that I think open a whole new vista of opportunities in healthcare, fundamental life sciences discovery, and pretty much everything that underlies our business.
Good evening. Welcome to our evening program. I'm Yoonhee Kim, Technology Editor for Corporate and Personal Tech. There is no more personal issue than our health. And today we're looking at how AI could transform the future of healthcare. Our first guest is Dr. Lloyd Minor, Dean of the Stanford School of Medicine. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you, Yoonhee. It's great to be here with you, and thank you to you and your colleagues at the Washington Post for hosting this conversation this evening.
So let's get started. You've said that AI is medicine's biggest moment since antibiotics, and AI has been deployed in healthcare so far. But what's the latest AI breakthrough in medicine?
Wow, there's so many. I mean, all the way from how we do fundamental discovery-based research, now, studying the structure of proteins, thanks to the predictive modeling of generative AI and enabling us to predict the structure of any protein based upon its amino acid sequence, and then extending those same approaches to nucleic acids and their structure and function, all the way to the way we design clinical trials and analyze the data from those trials, to the way we deliver healthcare. So I think each component of the biomedical life cycle is being transformed by AI. And in particular, large language models and generative AI offer a host of new opportunities because of their power to really bring information together in ways that generates knowledge.
Right, and the proliferation of generative AI has enabled more accessibility. Talk to us a little bit about how that's kind of powered AI into the healthcare system.
Sure. Well, I think one example would be the use of AI in tumor boards. It's been customary for decades for patients with complex cancers to have their diagnosis discussed and their treatment plan discussed by a group of experts that could include medical oncologists, radiation oncologists, surgical oncologists, pathologists, radiologists. They come together to put their collective insights and wisdom to select and recommend the best treatment options for that tumor in that patient at that time. Now that entire process can be taken to a whole new level by using AI to bring in treasure troves of information that even the experts sitting in the room might not have immediately available to them. And of course, by applying AI in that way, there's a huge democratizing effect, because no longer in the future will you have to have that group of 6, 8 or more experts in the same room at the same time, but you'll have the benefit of their knowledge and so much other knowledge working through an AI-assisted process that can be used anywhere in the world. That's one example. Another example would be in the interpretation of pathology slides. There are skilled expert pathologists in particular areas of pathology at various different places and institutions in the world. But today, if you want their opinion, you have to ship the slides. Now, thanks to scanning technologies, those images of slides of tumors can be reviewed anywhere in the world because they can be uploaded And their interpretation can also be assisted by AI in addition to getting them to the very best specialists.
So the process could be a lot more efficient and faster.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly.
I want to now turn to an audience question. Carol Wilson from Wisconsin asks, how do you see AI being used in mental health care?
I think there are a few ways that AI can be used in mental health care. And we just had an issue of our Stanford Medicine magazine earlier this year that included an article on the applications of AI in mental health care today and in the future. One application is in how you interpret a conversation, how a dialogue between a patient and a provider can be understood, certainly through the ears of the person listening to the patient, but also increasingly empowered by the AI analyzing both the patterns of speech, the tone of the speech, the use of pronouns, for example, correlating that with what is linked to depression and its manifestations, but also in an individual patient, being able to see how those speech patterns may change over time and may be indicative of their of the manifestations of their depression. That's one example. Using AI as an adjuvant, as a helper to cognitive behavioral therapy is another example. But I want to say in both cases, and I think in all cases, the AI is not supplanting, it's not displacing the role of the therapist, the role of the psychiatrist, but it's enabling them to have a lot more information. It's also, with the example of cognitive behavioral therapy, it's enabling a patient to have contact with nudges and with other aspects of their treatment plan anytime, any place, rather than in increments as defined by the appointments they have with their therapists. So there are lots of applications, including just how we document the encounter between a mental health care provider and a patient, where ambient AI, in that example and so many others, is proving to be beneficial.
I think one of the concerns about AI is just kind of the inaccuracies and the biases. And as a tech journalist, we've been experimenting a lot with the chatbots, and when we see that it is inaccurate at times, but we're dealing with people's health. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts about how we address some of these issues when we're talking about AI and people's health.
I think the first key is just what you mentioned, and that is we have to be aware that there can be and there are hallucinations, there are inaccuracies. Those improve as the AI models get better trained, but we should not separate the human receiving the information from the AI from the actual use of that information, at least in critically important steps like making a diagnosis or implementing a treatment plan. You know, there still absolutely has to be a role for the healthcare professional. With regard to bias, you know, the AI is only going to be as good as the data on which the AI model is trained. And if that data is biased, as it oftentimes is, because we know that a lot of the clinical trial data that exists in repositories was based upon demographic inclusion criteria in trials that weren't broadly representative of many populations in our country, not to mention around the world. Therefore, but the way to look at that is that the AI can actually help to point out those areas where the biases exist, make us more aware of what we need to do to make sure that clinical trials include broad representation as inclusion criteria, and therefore get data that's more indicative of how any individual within our demography is going to respond to a particular therapy.
Just the point about the data, it is so hard to gather data of patients, and in healthcare that's even more difficult. So how do you address that? How do institutions gather more data so that they can make AI more accurate and more powerful and actually help people?
I think we're already seeing some benefit in that regard. You know, we pretty much moved in the United States away from paper medical records a little over a decade ago, and that was with governmental incentives, it was with advances in technology. But initially, when we moved to electronic health records, the electronic health records were, in many cases, digital filing cabinets. So rather than filing paper documents in records rooms, we were filing digital documents. Now, as the form in which those documents are represented, as there's more consistency in the way the data are acquired, we actually have a lot more health data that, when appropriately used in studies, and by appropriately used I mean protecting patient privacy as being job number one, but that data, it contains within it a lot of power at gaining new knowledge that improves health care.
I want to shift gears to talk a little bit about regulation, because this
Sure.
is an area where there isn't any regulation.
Yep.
What role do you want the government to play in setting up guardrails for AI in healthcare?
It's an important question, particularly important question given recent events in the state of California and Senate Bill 1047. Look, I think
That bill was vetoed by Governor Newsom.
that bill was vetoed by Governor Newsom yesterday, that's correct. And I think that, first, I believe that there absolutely is a role for regulation in this very important area. And I think the key now, and as Governor Newsom said in his veto on the bill, is, and the specifics are subject to interpretation based upon the experts that are looking at the specifics, that is with regard to this bill. But I haven't heard anyone that would argue we don't need to establish guardrails. We don't need to have methods for studying how AI can be appropriately deployed, and also identifying how it's not appropriate to deploy it. Question is how that then translates into regulations that protect people, but that also don't stifle innovation and don't have unintended consequences that may actually do harm or prevent the deployment of AI in ways that it would maximize the good.
Right. I think the challenge is really balancing innovation and regulation.
That's exactly right. And of course, we've encountered that in other areas, but as you mentioned, this is a particularly important area because we're talking about people's health. We're also talking about people's privacy,
right,
of the data and the information that most of us would consider the most private. And we have to make sure that we define the principles, and then that we have the regulations that are appropriate to make sure that those principles are deployed and monitored appropriately.
We have a lot of health practitioners here tonight, and what advice would you give them to keep up with AI, given the pace of change? I mean, should their training change because we've seen a lot of developments and improvements with AI?
It's a great question, and you know, of all the applications of AI in health and healthcare, the one that has received, I think, the least attention so far is the role that AI, generative AI in particular, will play in education, in medical education. How should we be thinking about educating the next generation of physicians, or even educating the current generations of
right,
physicians, given that we have this tool that already is transformative for those of us who've used large language models to access information about the latest in the development of new therapeutics, or to access, information about conditions, about diseases. It's truly an inflection point. I think the way we have to stay abreast is similar to what we already need to do, and that is we should be reading journals. We should also be using large language models, but we have to use them carefully because we want to protect patient privacy. And if you enter data into a large language model, even though it may not have identifiers in it, it could ultimately lead to the identification. So that has to be protected. But using these models, discovering what they can do, and then seeing how we can deploy those in our practices to keep abreast with the latest in medical technologies and advances. I think that's the best way to, in these early stages, lean in and become familiar with the technology. And then I think all of us in medical education have a huge responsibility to study applications of generative AI and to make sure that we're offering, both to our current students and to physicians in training, the types of programs that will familiarize them with the appropriate uses.
What's your favorite AI tool that you use?
Wow, I've tried most of the large language models and I find them really interesting. I think if I want to, let's say I want to get familiarity with a topic that I haven't studied or read about in a long time, then typing in a simple query into any number of the large language models will give a synopsis that in most cases is very, very helpful. So in 5 minutes, I can get some background knowledge that if I really need to know a lot more, then I need to do the detailed reading, but at least it gets me started.
That's good to know. Final question.
Sure.
What is your message to the American public about how to stay informed about AI in healthcare?
Well, one is to ask the questions. Ask the questions about how is my healthcare data being used? Everyone in our country has a right to know that. And we as healthcare practitioners have the responsibility to inform people about how AI is being deployed or may be deployed in the future. You know, there was a study done last year by the Pew Charitable Trust where people were asked, do you trust AI in the interpretation of your health data? And understandably, a majority of Americans said no. And that's exactly what people should say until we understand how AI is being deployed. In fact, when we're using AI to reduce medication errors, when we're using AI to improve the processing of information so we get the most accurate diagnosis in a timely fashion, that's good. But it's incumbent upon all of us in healthcare to have the dialogue with the public about the appropriate applications and to get feedback from the public about what the major concerns are.
Well, Lloyd, we're just about out of time, so thank you so much for joining us this evening.
It's great to be with you.
Please stay with us. Our programming will continue in just a minute. And please enjoy your dinner.
Health, the beating heart of your everyday. It's in every step of your journey. We are there with you because caring for your health is at the heart of everything we do. We collaborate with scientists, researchers, and hospitals to support doctors, surgeons, nurses, and caregivers across the world to give you the best possible solutions to improve your health. Innovation and you, Philips.
Well, howdy everyone. How are you doing tonight? Thank you, Dr. Miner. That was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. Thank you for joining us here this evening. My name is Jeff DeLulo. I'm the leader for Philips North America. Tonight, I'm going to have a brief interlude about access to care. I'm inspired by the remarks earlier and the ones that we'll have tonight, I'm sure, about the role of AI in increasing access to care. But I also want to just take a moment to say thank you to all the amazing leadership in this room. This is a remarkable collection of leaders that are innovating for the next generation of how we deliver better care for more people. I'm inspired, Philips is inspired by your presence and by what you're doing for your local communities. I do want to spend a few minutes tonight talking about something a little different, really talking about a topic that deeply impacts those of us in the Bay Area, but also nationally and globally, and that's access and the importance of doing it together, because it takes all of us to do it together. And I'm going to call it the access chasm. It's an industry-wide challenge, one that I think AI, as it develops, is one that will be incredibly valuable in positioning us to address better care for more people, but specifically reaching care into communities that don't have access today. Now, I'm going to start by talking about the Philips mission. Like many of you, our mission is about improving care, but ours specifically is to improve the lives of 2.5 billion people globally this decade through meaningful innovation. And that includes explicitly 400 million in underserved communities. That's in our ESG framework. We report out on that. It's a defining characteristic of our culture, and it drives our strategy in everything we do. And so as we innovate, we also know we can't do it alone. It takes partners, because we know the theory of access to care, meaning everyone should be able to have access to care, is not the same as applying reality and how hard it is to actually deliver on that promise. So bringing it to reality is something that we are passionate about in every aspect of what we do and why we love partnering with so many of you. and I'll say some of the smartest people in the industry are right here in this room. It is an innovation hub here in the Bay Area, one that we love to be part of, and the folks in this room are carrying healthcare forward as far as it's come in generations, and yet we have a whole lot more to do. So I'm going to start with a little story. Some of what I think captures a little bit of the cultural barriers that we have to go through, not just the technology barriers, but the cultural barriers to increase access. And it's a story about 4 people named everybody, somebody, anybody, and nobody. Work with me for a second. So there once was an important job that had to be done, and everybody was sure that somebody would do it. This is the story of everybody. Now, it actually didn't happen. Somebody got angry about that because they thought it was everybody's job to do it. And of course, everybody thought, well, anybody could do it. But nobody realized that everybody wouldn't just do it. It ended up that everybody decided to blame somebody that it didn't get done, and when nobody did what anybody could have done. Now, why do I rattle you with this kind of cheeky story? Well, I actually like it because it's the principle. Why it matters is it's something that repeats itself over and over again in our society. Big intractable problems. There we go. Thank you. I don't need applause for that. Are left unsolved because no one takes responsibility for them uniformly. Because everybody always thinks that somebody else will lean in and take care of the lead. But the real truth is we know no one individually can solve the problems that you all are trying to solve, that we all want to solve in increasing access to care. Somebody does need to lean in and get everybody around the problem. And if it's not me, and if it's not you, some of the most vested people on earth in this room, then who? It has to be us, pulling it all together. Innovators, providers, technology companies like us, and so many more. Now, each of you has led in that journey in your own way. But even today, it's not necessarily better for all people. Many are falling behind. That's why I believe it's a responsibility of our generation to change outcomes. And we have an incredible position with AI to do that. So let me give you an example. Meet Cecil Wilson. This is Cecil. Cecil is a smoker since he was 14 years old. Cecil's a veteran. He is now 70. He lives in Buffalo, New York, where the incidence of lung cancer is 35% higher than the statewide average, and it's the #2 killer in the state. And you'd say, okay, that doesn't really surprise me. But with Cecil, he has no transportation. And without transportation, he might never have taken a lung screening. In fact, 6% of the people in Buffalo, New York that qualify for a lung screening ever get it. So it's a very high instance of people who get lung cancer die from it because it's late stage when they're aware. And if not for groundbreaking collaboration led by Roswell Cancer Center and Institute and the local and state government partnering with Roswell and with Philips and community organizations and faith leaders to bring mobile lung cancer screening to Buffalo, New York, we've been able to do that and save Cecil's life and save many like him into the future. And it has a name. It's called EDDY, Early Detection Driven to You. Don't know if I have Eddie on the stage, but if early detection driven to you. Low-dose CT, moving out into communities. And we had to do it as a partnership. We couldn't just put technology. It needed a provider. It needed infrastructure. It needed local community. Interesting fact, we deployed the first low-dose mobile CT in the country, and we put it out in the communities in Buffalo, and nobody came. Well, we misread that one. Turns out we needed trust of community leaders like faith-based, like pastors and churches. And so we worked closely with Roswell and churches and actually began to move our mobile CT into church parking lots on Sundays where everybody shows up, whether they walk or ride, it doesn't matter. And now we have people actually getting access to care the way they need it in a place that's close to where they live. That is creative partnerships, pulling it together to improve access to care. Now, yeah, we use our low-dose incisive CT on the truck. It's AI-enabled all the way from better automated patient positioning to over-the-shoulder capability from specialists that sit back at Roswell that don't need to be at the truck. You can take care of the patient at the truck and get the scans done in record time with the AI that's on the system, and then you have the ability to do all the over-the-shoulder and consultation to make sure it's done just right and we love doing that, and now we know we can do it at scale. So if you imagine that being a blueprint to be able to move into any urban or rural community to be able to increase screening and access, we can do it at scale. Now, I will tell you, putting this program together was not easy at all. It took different thinking, really different thinking, things that we're not good at that we had to sort out with Roswell and with the state. But it's making a big difference, and lives are being extended because of it. I'm going to call that a local coalition of the willing. Sorry, it is of the living. It's of the willing. It's a local coalition of the willing. People locally with local needs, with local access to care issues got together and said, I'm going to do something for this community. And now we can do it at scale because the technology is there at scale. I'll give you another example. Emory Farm Worker Family Health Program is another inspiring example of where we see bringing care into the community where people live and work with, yes, technology, but really together with partnerships to do something new and different. Meet Brandon Magno, a nursing school student at Emory School of Nursing. He's a son of farm workers, and he works today at a clinic that supports healthcare needs in a rural part of South Georgia that treats thousands of migratory farm workers seasonally in South Georgia. These folks work up to 16 hours a day in extreme heat with heavy machinery in horrible conditions at times, and those workers who are critical to our economy and human beings don't have access to care the way you and I do today. There's a lot of barriers there. First of all, language, transportation, lack of insurance. There's a whole host of reasons these people will never have access to care, which is why Brandon and his team is so passionate about what we're doing in South Georgia. We're bringing care into the community. Over the next year, we're actually deploying a mobile trailer to do clinics locally that we're already doing it today, but we anticipate over 9,000 migrant workers and families will be treated by the mobile care unit that we're deploying in South Georgia. And again, it's another example of a coalition of the willing, of people willing to put things together to make it work, harnessing existing capability and creative new ways to deliver that into communities. And again, it's scalable. Our partnership with Emory has the potential to improve the way we approach rural healthcare everywhere. We're learning from it and adjusting our tactics and making it better and better. And it's a shared journey as we build new capabilities that we can bring to communities all over the country. Even the South Bay, where we have a dramatic difference in just a few miles apart on the access to care here, and you all know the numbers. And it's allowing people like Brandon, a nursing student, to be able to receive hands-on education on new AI-driven technology, like an ultrasound that you can fit in your pocket, administer it on a tablet, and you can have an over-the-shoulder read right there, coaching for a local care provider from a specialist somewhere else at a hospital where we can leverage scale and top of licensure. And it's literally mobile with a broadband capability you can take anywhere that you can find a broadband. And I'm sure we could find other options where you can't. So again, this goes back to scalable, where it used to be stethoscopes and pressure cuffs, blood pressure cuffs. We now have ultrasound and devices that are moving into communities that are fairly technical and AI driven. And that has a AI application when you bring it off, so we can do a reading to help doctors and sonographers actually not only get the right scan, but also get the right diagnosis much faster as part of the workflow. Now, with these latest AI enhancements, I'd say in that ultrasound technology, it's just one area, and I chose to do it because it's so portable, it's so ubiquitously able to get out into communities. But I also want to make it personal. So 2 months ago, my wife's parents live in South Alabama. 2 months ago, we had to make the call to bring them up to Nashville where we live, because my father-in-law had congestive heart failure, and he could not get care, and he couldn't drive, and there was no way he was going to get the treatment he needed. So we brought him up. At 2:48 this morning, he had a heart event. He was taken to the hospital in Nashville immediately. My wife went with him to the hospital. He has access to care here that I wanted him to be able to have in his home of decades and decades in South Alabama. And we are working really hard to make that scalable technology so that folks like my father-in-law and many of the folks you know and love have that chance to live life the way they deserve to live life. Now, we're all realists too. There is no single intervention that's going to work it out. There's no one thing. It's the experimentation, it's the innovation drive, and it's the power, collective power in this room that really gets us to do far more together than we can do individually. Lives improved locally is always our goal, and it has to be scalable so that we can do that everywhere. And that's what tonight for us, at least at Philips, is about. And I want to start with raising a hand. raising a hand to opt in, and I'll start by raising mine. If there's something we can do to help you increase access to your communities, something that we can partner on together to innovate a more capable delivery model, leveraging AI that already exists and experimenting new ways to deliver it, I'm in, because everybody involved deserves access to care the way we believe they should. And nobody should ever have to go without care. I want to thank you for this evening. I want to thank you to our speakers. I hope you have a great rest of the evening. Thanks so much.
AI is just data. It learns from the data that you give it. And we are always feeding data into AI that reflects the past, the way our medical system looks today and the way it's looked. That's how AI learns. Unfortunately, if AI learns to basically replicate our current system, it's going to replicate all of the inequalities in our current system. And so if an AI predicts who a doctor should see by looking at who doctors have seen in the past, that's going to incorporate all of the biases that reflect the barriers that people face getting into the healthcare system.
Trustworthy AI means that we have the processes in place to make sure that our tools are ethical, robust, fair, safe, and we're evaluating that both when we're doing our initial implementations and then longitudinally as we use the tools.
Hello again, I'm Yoonhee Kim, Technology Editor for Corporate and Personal Tech, and we'll now continue with a discussion about ways to foster trust and transparency as AI is deployed. Joining me now are Sarah Murray, Vice President and Chief Health AI Officer at UCSF Health, and Dr. Ziad Obermeyer, Associate Professor at UC Berkeley. He also co-founded Dandelion Health, a health data platform for AI product development. Thank you both for joining us this evening.
Thank you so much for having us.
So Sarah, I want to start with you. How is UCSF using some of the AI technologies that are out there, and what's changed in the last 2 years?
Yeah, so we've all been using AI for quite a while, and I think, looking 10 years ago, we were using AI. It was more in the realm of predictive AI or traditional AI. And what changed over the last couple of years is we've entered this generative AI era where we're all using large language models and starting to think about how we use them safely and responsibly in healthcare to improve the way we deliver healthcare. And so there are a couple exciting use cases that we're working on right now, and those fall in the the realm that we kind of call keyboard liberation, to borrow the term from Eric Topol, where we really try to get providers away from their computers and back in front of their patients where they want to be. And so we're using things in the clinical setting now, like AI scribes, which actually take the notes for the provider during the clinical encounter and draft their notes. We're using different types of drafting tools to draft responses to patient messages with the hope that we can respond more quickly and get patients the care they need. And then we're starting to explore exciting clinical use cases as these tools are getting better and better at clinical reasoning.
And Ziad, we talked a little bit earlier about the importance of data and the fact that you need a lot of data, but you've done some research to show that the way that AI replicates data is very different. So talk to us a little bit about that and your research.
Yeah, I think that if I were stepping back and critically evaluating the current state of AI in healthcare, and this is not to detract from some of the amazing things that are going on right now, I'd say that overall, it's doing probably more harm than it is good right now at the national scale. And so, I'll give you one example from my research, which was mentioned in the clip before. We looked at a set of commercial tools that nearly every health system in the US and many health systems abroad use to figure out, okay, they've got a population of patients, some of those people are going to get sick, they want to figure out who's going to get sick before they do so they can help prevent those exacerbations of chronic illnesses and things like that. And so the commercial algorithms that are used for that task predict something about that patient, what's going to happen to that patient. Now, what all of those tools do is predict how much that patient is going to cost the healthcare system as a proxy for how much healthcare that person needs. But unfortunately, there's a big difference in this country, but in most countries, between getting healthcare and needing healthcare. And so algorithms that are predicting who gets healthcare are going to disadvantage people who need healthcare but don't get it in the data that we have. And so that's the fundamental problem, is that a lot of algorithms are looking backwards and learning from the experiences of our deeply flawed healthcare system and automating all of those inequalities for the future. And so I gave you one example. Casey Ross in STAT had a great example of claims being denied in a very unfair way. And I think what all those things have in common is that automation of inequality, looking at the past and automating it for the future. And so I think that unless we break out of that loop and start training algorithms to learn new things and help us do better, we're going to get stuck in a very unpleasant feedback loop that'll just keep going on.
So how do we do that?
Go ahead.
I was just going to say we had similar experiences with some of the early commercial algorithms where we looked at a no-show algorithm that was supposed to help us understand when patients weren't going to make it to clinic, and we found it was very biased against vulnerable patient populations. And so we had some of the same early kind of findings with a lot of these commercial tools, and that's why we ended up building our AI oversight processes.
Yeah, and I think, Sarah, you mentioned, I think, a key thing that Dr. Miner also mentioned, which is the governance and the oversight. And I think that, of course we need regulation, and I think we need investigations, and so there's clearly a role for the regulation. But I think we also need people like Sarah and people at other institutions all over the country who are looking at the data and looking at these algorithms in a critical way and evaluating them. And that's currently really, really hard to do because there aren't that many people like Sarah. And it's really, really hard to get access to the data. So all the work that I've done and the work that you do, we do because we sit in and partner with academic systems. We're able to look at the output of these commercial algorithms. We're able to scrutinize them. But that's not something that most health systems can do. And right now, these algorithms are not being tested by anyone, whether it's the consumer or regulators or anyone else. So I think that access to data is a really important bottleneck to effective evaluation and regulation.
So Sarah, what are some best practices that UCSF Health is practicing in order to make sure that we don't get bias in AI?
Yeah, so we learned, as I mentioned, we learned quite early on from our experience and Zia's experience about that many of these models were biased. And so we built a fairly robust AI oversight process. And we have a committee that has all kinds of people on it. So it has data scientists, ethicists, health equity experts, legal risk folks. And everyone comes together to look at these tools at multiple steps in the AI life cycle. And we kind of evaluate them according to the Health and Human Services trustworthy AI guidelines. And so you can look those up if you're interested, but it's looking across these tools, are they safe? Are they robust? Are they fair? Is the right security in place? And so we have that process at UCSF, and everything that touches our health system, regardless of whether it's coming out of a research lab, if it's something we're buying from industry, if it's something my health AI team's building, goes through that oversight. The problem, as you mentioned, is that it's really hard to scale that to lower resource settings. And so there are groups that are looking at this nationally, which many of us participate in. Coalition for Health AI is thinking about assurance labs. Other groups like Health AI Partnership are thinking about how do we provide centralized expertise to lower resource settings. But no one's really cracked that nut yet. And so I think there's a lot of work to happen nationally.
Ziad, you've trained in emergency medicine and still try to get some time in the ER. Can AI do anything differently for a doctor when making kind of quick and consequential life or death situations?
Yeah, I mean, despite my research looking at cases of AI gone horribly wrong, I am actually deeply optimistic about the potential for AI to help. And I think if you think about a setting like the emergency room where doctors are making really important decisions with very little information, that's the perfect recipe for both human error and improvement from AI. And so I'll just mention one project that I'm doing in partnership with Providence. One of our partners is here in the audience, Ari Robichek. Ask him all the tough questions after the event, please. We're implementing a tool that we've built that helps emergency doctors understand, okay, here's a patient right in front of me. It's a person with a little bit of shortness of breath or a little bit of nausea. Is this person having a heart attack? And that, it's not always as easy to diagnose heart attack as it looks on television, and this tool speaks to that. It's one of the obsessions that emergency doctors have in the ER because very subtle symptoms could be a heart attack. And emergency doctors, like many other doctors in many settings, don't always make the best decisions when trying to figure out who has a heart attack. We test a lot of low-risk people, and we also fail to test a lot of high-risk people that come through the ER and have bad outcomes because we miss them. And so this tool is something that can spot those low-risk patients and help the doctor say, oh, no, yeah, that patient is actually low risk, doesn't need to be tested. It can also help surface those high-risk patients that we might otherwise miss. And to the evaluation point, in partnership with Providence, we're rolling that algorithm out as a randomized trial so that we can critically evaluate its effectiveness on patient outcomes before we deploy it more broadly.
That's very interesting. Sarah, what about preventative care? Because I think in America we tend to maybe be a little too reactive. Mm-hmm. Can AI help us with preventative care?
Mm-hmm. So I think there's an interesting opportunity now with these large language models. And so there are things that happen in healthcare. For example, like you get a CT scan because you had pneumonia and there's something called an incidental pulmonary nodule. And we have a protocol for dealing with those, and we have people have follow-up at certain intervals. But it's often, those types of things are often missed because if they're not hard-coded and we don't have the right processes in place, then it's missed. And so with these large language models, we're looking at a model right now where we can actually pick those up and then put into place the right population health workflows to make sure those patients get appropriate follow-up. And so I think there's a lot of opportunity to just learn from the population, and when we have things we want to go in and intervene on, to get more data from the health system or from the healthcare record, because we can use the large language models to pull things out of clinical notes.
I want to turn to an audience question. Andrea Hobby from DC asks, how can we ensure that potential AI solutions in medicine actively promote health equity and address rather than exacerbate existing biases in the healthcare system? I think we've addressed this question a little bit, but there's more to say.
Yeah, so again, I think having a process in place where we really evaluate these tools for fairness across the AI lifecycle, as well as efficacy and whether it's driving value, is really important. I think these tools have tremendous potential to actually mitigate health disparities. So, we're looking at right now building models that might help democratize subspecialty knowledge. And so, whereas someone in a rural setting may not have been able to ask challenging hepatology questions, one of our hepatologists has built a tool where you can go in and ask more specific hepatology liver guideline questions and get those types of answers. So I think those types of things exist. And then, additional studies are happening now that weren't previously possible. So we have a clinical fellow, Dr. Porian, and she was really interested in what happened when people brought their kids to the ER for an ear infection. And what often happens is, because ear infections go away by themselves, the doctor will give you a prescription and say, don't take this for a couple days until unless it gets worse. But there were potentially disparities in how that prescribing was happening. And so she was able to actually use large language models, understand when those prescriptions were being written, because you couldn't previously tell from the prescribing data, and then start identifying disparities in terms of language and things like that that might lead to different outcomes. And so I think there's a lot of research potential as well here.
I share your optimism, Sarah, and I'll just add, I think all of those evaluation and oversight functions are really important. I'll add an example from my own work that's a little bit different on the research side, which is that there's this long-standing mystery in the literature on pain, which is that if you ask a radiologist to look at a black patient's knee and a white patient's knee, and their arthritis looks the same, the black patient will, on average, tend to report higher levels of pain, even though to the radiologist, the knees look exactly the same. And if you trained a model to just spit back out what the radiologist was going to say about the knee, obviously you're going to make no progress on that problem. So we trained a model to actually, instead of predicting what the radiologist was going to say, we trained the model to listen to the patient and say, is the patient going to rate this knee as very painful or not? And in so doing, that algorithm found a lot of things in the X-ray that explained that extra pain that black patients were feeling, and was discovering new things in the X-ray that were not captured by the radiologist. And so our medical science is often built on these old studies. In this case, it was coal miners in England in 1950. And so AI has the potential to rebuild that science in a more accurate, but also in a more just and equitable way that I'm very excited about.
That's really fascinating. Let's turn to the future and what we can anticipate, because things are moving very, very quickly. In 3 to 5 years' time, where do you think we will be if the bias issues and kind of the data issues are solved? Sarah, you want to go first?
Well, I don't think we'll actually solve bias issues. I think we'll continually work to mitigate bias, because society is biased. The data will always be biased, even if there are ways we can work around that. I think I am continually shocked by how quickly things how quickly the technology is developing right now. I think we haven't seen this in healthcare before, honestly. And so if I'd roadmapped this out a year ago, I would have said, yeah, we're just going to focus on the keyboard liberation, automation type use cases. And now I've been really impressed by the clinical reasoning capabilities of these tools. So I think we could get to the place where you interact with a chatbot and you have simple urinary tract infection symptoms, and it knows you need antibiotics. Whether that will actually happen is very complicated, because the regulatory environment is what it is. And someone has to be responsible still for antibiotics, et cetera. But I think we're going to get to a place where and we're already there in many ways, where these tools can do a lot of really interesting clinical reasoning as well.
I think there are probably two things that on that 3 to 5 year time frame, which is short.
It is short.
Give me some.
And could be long, too.
Yes, and also long. They give me some cautious optimism. One is, I think, on the regulatory and government and policy side, I think there's just more and more attention to these issues. There are frameworks, there are definitions of bias. So I think that there's just a lot more attention to that. I think, though, that this is such a fast-moving area. I mean, there's just so much stuff going on in the market that those regulatory and oversight solutions are only going to get us so far. In view of everything that's happening, things are moving in many ways too quickly for the regulators to catch up. And so I think for me, if I were to have an optimistic vision of the future, I think that really solving this data bottleneck, which I'm working on, which a lot of other people are working on, is really the critical thing for solving the bias problem, but the accuracy and trustworthiness problem writ large, both because we need more people and more diverse people who have access to data, who are able to build AI products that serve the needs of the populations that they care about, not just the populations in Palo Alto, and nothing against the populations of Palo Alto and Rochester, Minnesota, but the rest of the country is also important, and algorithms need to see their data and reflect their needs. And we also need those data to critically evaluate the algorithms that are coming from researchers, from industry, from lots of other places. And it can't just be these small academic centers and studies like Sarah and I do. It has to be a much broader based effort where people are evaluating algorithms in new data that the algorithm's never seen. That's the secret sauce of machine learning in every other industry, and it needs to be applied to healthcare as well.
Yeah, and I think for physicians and nurses, the electronic health record was perceived to cause a tremendous amount of harm. People were still in front of computers, constantly documenting. I think it's going to undo a lot of the harm that the EHR was perceived to cause and get providers of all kinds back in front of patients. I think what we're seeing in our early data is that physicians are feeling this tremendous relief of cognitive burden because they're looking at their patient, and the patients feel the same thing. They're like, wow, I went to the doctor, and instead of my doctor furiously typing, they were just looking at me, which is a really positive thing. And so I think we're going to see a big change for better in terms of how clinical care is actually delivered.
Well, on that optimistic note, I think we're out of time. We're so glad that the both of you can join us tonight for this really insightful conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you all for joining us tonight, and thanks to everyone joining us virtually. I'm Yoon-hee Kim with the Washington Post in San Francisco. And now, please enjoy your entrees.